Welcome back to another episode of Moonacre Creations. If you're new here, my name is Megan, and I make fantasy art and costumes of all kinds. So a few housekeeping things to get out of the way before I get started is, one, I have gotten a new microphone. Some of you may know I have had a microphone journey. So at the time of filming this video, which was October, I had a really bad microphone and it didn't pick up sound very well. So the first part of this video may be a little quiet. You might have to turn up your volume a little bit. So thank you so much for bearing with me on that. But all further videos going forward will have the same audio that I have now, which is the new better mic. Number two, I filmed this in October and I'm not getting it out till December because I filmed 2 other Halloween videos and I got those out pretty much on time. But it is the busy season for my Etsy store and my normal 40-hour-a-week job, so I have had to delay it, unfortunately, so thank you for watching anyway. So today's design is going to be one out of my trusty old design book for Halloween. It's based on 50s Halloween costumes, namely this one, which is a men's costume, but I've kind of adapted it to my personal design tastes. So it's going to feature a cone hat, just like in the original, lots of moon faces. I just love that moon face, like the cheeky little moon face. I use it all the time in my artwork. It's going to have a corseted bodice, puff sleeves with circus details, and a T-length broomstick skirt in orange plaid. So without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, these are the fabrics I have for the project. This one will be for the sleeves. It's a polyester broadcloth. I would have liked to have cotton, but I just couldn't get any in time. This is for the skirt. It's a plaid. I'm going to also use it on the sleeves to accent. This is for the little appliques that go on the hat and the corset. And this is for the body of the corset and the cone for the cone hat. So to get started on the bodice, I have my regular pattern here. It's the one I've used for many projects. It's perfectly my size. If you need one, there are some on Etsy that I'll link below, and someday I may release this when I can finally learn how to digitize patterns. So this fabric is pretty thin, so I'm going to have to make a thicker lining layer. And I'm going to get to cutting out all of the pieces for this and then sewing them together. I ended up picking this fabric for the liner because it's upholstery fabric and it'll be thicker and good as a liner. My camera battery died and all I did was cut out a bunch of pattern pieces anyway, so I figured you don't need to see that. So we're moving on to connecting them all and then turning them inside out. In order to make sure the bodice pieces line up exactly, you're going to want to put a pin through both sides right on the line, especially on the corner. So I just put the pin through on the line and then I put another one through next to it. And that ensures that I don't sew over the pin, but the pattern pieces are lined up exactly. So I'm back, it's day 2. We're gonna get started with both halves of the bodice. Here's the outside, here's the inside, and the first thing we're gonna do is take all these seams and iron them down flat, and then attach both sides together, wrong sides together, and then sew along the top to join the two pieces, which will then be turned inside out. So I have cut out the little applique for the front of the bodice, but I realized I'm going to have to paint it before I put it on, so I'm going to get into doing that right now. And I think I'm just going to use regular old fabric paint, and I'm going to try to copy the face from the reference photo, but maybe change it a little bit because the one in the drawing is just a rough sketch from a design book, so I might modify it to fit my design better. put the whole thing together pretty much. Now I'm going to move on to doing the hardware. I'm going to make the straps adjustable, and I'm going to add in all of the grommets, and then that should be the end for the corset. Moving on to the skirt, it should be pretty simple. I'm just going to make a couple strips out of this and then fold over a waistband and keep adding the strips together wider and wider to make kind of like a tiered skirt or a broomstick skirt, but it will only be going down to right about above the knee. So each layer is going to be 12 inches wide, and for the second layer I'm going to be putting pleats every so often, maybe every 3 inches down the line so it can get that extra volume, and then every row below the first row is going to be pleated that way so it gets wider and wider all the way down the skirt. So the first row will be not pleated, but it will be gathered around the waistband, and then the second row will be pleated, the third will be pleated, and the fourth will be pleated. I'm going to be showing you guys guys an example of how to do a French seam, which is how I'm doing the seams for every layer of the skirt. So the first thing you're going to do is sew your sides together, wrong sides out, and then trim away the excess, and then flip it over and sew another seam so that that original seam is encased, and it'll look really professional and put together. So here's what it looks like with just 3 tiers. So I think I'm actually not going to add a 4. I'm just going to do a rolled seam at the end and call it a day for the skirt. So next I'm going to be moving on to making the sleeves. I have my XL sleeve pattern here, and I have got to tell y'all, last time I made these, the sleeves were just not XL enough, so I'm going to have to redraft these to make sure they have the volume I want, because I want these things huge. So what I'm going to do is trace this onto a big piece of paper, and then kind of cut it out and separate it so that the middle section around here has even more space to get that extra volume. I actually have an example here. This is the sleeve that I use this pattern for, and it's not nearly poofy enough. So now I'm going to take another piece of paper, trace it on there, and then widen the sleeve. If you hear my embroidery machine in the background, I apologize, but Mama's got a deadline. So I've got 1 yard of gray fabric to make the sleeves out of, and it's kind of lucky because I actually think that will be exactly enough for 2 sleeves and nothing more. So originally I thought I was going to use the same fabric I used for the skirt, this one. But honestly, I think it's kind of giving Mormon youth pastor. My print is done. So I ended up switching from gray to black fabric for the sleeves because I think the gray didn't really match the rest of the costume very well. The black will better match like the black details on the moon face and everything like that. So I think it's a better choice. I also picked this orange fabric from my Halloween fabric stash. It's got little like floral details on it. I got this at the Halloween section of a quilting store. So I actually had to drive over an hour to go to that quilting store that I got that fabric from, and then they were sold out of it. So I got this one instead. It's Harlequin with little pumpkins. So this one might actually be better because it's more like jestery or clownish or something. So I think 3 should do for each sleeve. The triangles are about 8 inches high from the center and probably about 8 inches wide at the bottom. I'm just going to put 3 on each sleeve and then baste them on with some temporary adhesive spray for quilting. And then I'm going to sew around the edge with the zigzag stitch to attach them, and then probably put a couple of straight stitches through on my machine to kind of quilt them onto the sleeve, and then I will be ready to like actually attach it as a sleeve. So the sleeves are ready. I'm going to be attaching them to this t-shirt that I don't wear anymore. So I'm just going to cut the sleeves off of this and then fit them into the armholes. So I've already finished one sleeve just to test how to make them properly. Here it is. So what I'm going to do is on the seam underneath the sleeve, that would be right here, I'm going to put a French seam in to close it, and then I'm going to put a straight stitch along the bottom to pleat it, and sew the E's in the top of the sleeve the same way to get that little puff at the top. And then that should be all for the construction of the sleeve, except for the bottom, which I'll encase in a little bias tape to close it up. And then for this t-shirt, I'm going to kind of cut the neck to like not make it so close. And then that will be it for the undershirt. Now it kind of looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and hem this collar area, and then that'll be it for this. So next I'm going to be starting on the Ruff collar. I've been wanting to add one of these to my costume wardrobe for a really long time, so I think this is a great time to do it. I have this like medium thickness canvas that I'm using. I think it's upholstery fabric, but I guess you could also use cotton, but I think that because it's a little bit thicker, it'll add some structure to the piece. And I'm gonna start doing that based on a tutorial I found on YouTube. So it looks like it's done just the same way as cartridge pleating, if you know what that is. I'm gonna make a long strip that, well, it's probably around the width of my neck, which I think is around 15 inches. And then, so I'll have the strip as the base, kind of like a necklace, and then I'm gonna make another really long strip. I don't know how long until it's done, but that will just be folded and straight stitched through in order to create the ruffles, and then the whole thing will be connected to the necklace piece. So I've cut and ironed and sewn a seam along all of the edges of the neck strip, which ended up being 14 inches, but I cut it out at 16 inches to add for seam allowance. So just measure your neck and see how it will fit, and when it comes together in the back, it should just meet. To start the ruff, I have just curled under the fabric to make a little loop like this. And then I'm just going to start folding the fabric in this fashion until it's long enough to go around the whole collar. And then I'll be putting a stitch through all of the pieces this way and on both sides, and also on the other side, and then sewing it to the collar along the back edge. So all the pleats on the ruff are done, so I'm gonna now attach them to the little choker, but first I'm gonna put a little hook and eye on the edge to create the closure before I do that, because it'll be harder to do it after the ruff is attached. So the last part of the project is going to be the pointy hat. So I have all of my little cutouts here that I made when I did the bodice. So I have little stars in orange and green, and I'm going to be using the same black fabric that was used for the sleeves for the fashion fabric layer of the hat. So I'm going to make it the same way I make my hennins, where it's just a pointy cone hat, but I'm not going to use the wooden dowel because it isn't going to have a veil on it, so it doesn't need to be supported extra. The first thing I'm going to do is cut out my fashion fabric and my liner, as well as the piece of interfacing. I'm going to take my fashion fabric and attach all of my little pieces on, like the stars and the moon face, and then I'm going to sew both sides of the outer fabrics to the interfacing and fold them under at the bottom. And then I'm going to sew a straight stitch around the entire form and close up the side with another straight stitch and trim the excess and then turn it inside out, and then that will be the finished cone hat. for the critique, I'm going to use my criteria, and I'm going to be judging it on visual appeal, function, craftsmanship, cost, and composition. So for visual appeal, very good. It looks pretty much like how I thought it would look, very close to the design. The colors are complementary. My color palette is a soft autumn, so doing orange and black is not very complementary to my skin tone, so I picked that orange and green, which I think works really well, and it ended up being, it's still reading as Halloween, so that worked out well. Function. It wears well, it fits well. I don't foresee it ripping or having any problems where I'm going to need to repair it last minute. The Ruff collar is a little tight to my neck. I should have probably added an inch or two around, but I wanted it to be like, I don't know, I wanted it to be like a choker, but it ended up choking me. The hat is nice and lightweight, it doesn't fall off my head, it's well fitted, so the function of that is good, and overall I think I'll give function, how about a 7 out of 10. The craftsmanship is not the best. Certain parts of the piece, especially in the back, the boning didn't extend all the way to the bottom of the bodice. In one part I cut it too short, so it kind of flips up a little bit and it's not perfect. So I'll say a 5 out of 10 for craftsmanship. The skirt's good. The sleeves, I made my puff sleeves too big. So I wanted my puffs to be huge. So what I did is I added more fabric to the pattern lengthways, but that made them too droopy. So in the end I had to kind of sew a dart horizontally through the sleeve. Totally like ruined the drape. It still functions, it still looks okay, but it's not perfect craftsmanship, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Cost, probably like a 5 out of 10 as well. I had to purchase fabric for this, which I really shouldn't do because I have absurd amounts of fabric already that I'm not using. The problem is, whenever I need a fabric, I only have a little bit of each type, so I can't make an entire skirt out of what I have, so I'm just accumulating like billions of remnants that I'm not putting to use that I'm gonna have to think up ways to actually use in the future. So cost, whole thing probably cost around $50, which if I really put my mind to it, I probably could have cut that cost, but I didn't. Composition, good. I like how the skirt and the hat and the bodice all have the same matching elements of green, orange, and black. The sleeves, I think I probably should have used green instead of black on the sleeves. That's kind of a nitpick though, that's probably fine. The overall composition is pretty symmetrical, visually like harmonious, and I'm happy with the outcome. I think the asymmetry of the bodice turned out well, where it's asymmetrical but it still looks balanced in a way, which is what I was going for. So composition, I'll give it like 7 out of 10. So if you've made it to this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I've been receiving a lot of really great support from you guys that I'm so grateful for, because I never even thought anybody was gonna watch this, and now I have I think around like 2,500 subscribers, somewhere around there. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you next time.